slowed it down a little bit and brought it back because we're telling us they want to get Miami to move around a little bit. They want to make them run, understanding that they're on tired legs, and Miami happy to have Chicago with the ball. It's going to be a battle of wits and physicality as far as who can last.
Visited by Mara Jade, Luke Skywalker, and Guile Katarn, and so many of the Force sensitives like yourself. I'm Lord Dagovere, fam, and it's so good to see you. Let's go. How y'all doing today? Yo, Logan, the legend, everybody. Hello, Turtle, my boy Daddy Sheev, Skywalker Academy, Leon, Trent. Yo, can I get for the first time today? Ready up. Let's go. Let's go. How you guys doing today? How's everybody? We doing good? We chilling? We vibing? Let's go. Ready up. Yeah, I know, man. Tell me about it. Let's go. It keeps saying that the stream quality is poor. It makes no sense to me, man. I don't get it. Am I lagging or something on the stream? I don't understand. Later than the Legacy era. Yeah, that's one of the furthest continuities, man. Continuities. But how you guys doing today? Yo, David Torres, so good to see you. Everybody, welcome David Torres with the ready up in the chat. Let's freaking go, fam. Love seeing you guys. What's good to me? Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Yeah. So what's been happening with EA? Yeah, so we're going to talk about that. We're going to be talking about that today. Once we get into like the nitty gritty of the stream, we're going to go over what I feel about like EA and what I think is happening, what I think is going to be happening with Star Wars video games, which is literally in like a cesspool of crap and everything else, man. Anthony, thanks so much for coming in here. Everybody, welcome Anthony. We're already up inside the chat. Let's go. Yeah, so I want to talk about why people keep talking about the Sith are good guys. They are not inherently evil, which I think is insane. I don't know who's talking about that. I don't know who decided to talk like that and say those things, man, but it is so weird. I don't know. It's so crazy how far the people go out to defend the Sith, in my opinion, that I've seen, instead of defending, like, the Jedi. You know, it's crazy, man. I don't know, but it is what it is. Yo, Lorena, thank you so much for coming over here to the chat. So good to see you, everybody on TikTok. Awesome, all the cool people over here. All the Star Wars fans, let's freaking go. That's how we're doing it, baby. David Torres says they talk about the Sith because we them boys. Yeah, that's right. Let's go, yo. Sith boys inside the chat. Let's go. Logan says, I believe Darth Vectiv's story Lumaya tells is manufactured. Yes, Logan. Yes. I literally just made a video on that on my face account for TikTok. When I heard that story, and mind you, I have not read New Jedi Order to its entirety, but I'm getting there once I finish all of the Thrawn books. I'm rereading all of that. I want to get into the all the Jedi series and everything else, all the beautifulness that's going on. It's pretty sick. It's pretty amazing, and I can't wait to get just the quick feel, unfiltered view of New Jedi Order, which is amazing. Yeah, man, it's pretty beautiful of a story, you know. Thank you so much, Tim and Jose on TikTok for joining in here. Thank you so much, guys. So the Sith. So this is what I saw. This is what started it all. Right here, I'll just go ahead and bring it over for you guys so you guys can see this terrible take, and I'll go ahead and maximize it on YouTube. If you guys are on Twitter, I'm sorry you cannot see, but this is what we have. Okay. And so what they said, for anyone that's there, what they said is the Sith passively are not evil. The only Sith or Jedi that are evil are the ones who act on their own personal views, like Darth Sidious. He acted towards his own values, but Darth Vader acted for himself. But also others, like his troopers, were most respected by him and didn't agree to slavery. That's complete horseshit, guys. Like, I just don't know how to say anything else other than that, man. Like, I don't know who is facilitating or manufacturing this thought or this ideology about the Sith and how the Empire didn't really care about slavery. That's not true, guys. In no era of Star Wars has slavery ever been abolished. Slavery has always existed in Star Wars. It doesn't matter if it's the beginning with the Jedi and the Dark Jedi. It doesn't matter if it's the cartels and the Hutts. It doesn't matter if it's the dawn of the Jedi. It has literally been through everything. I don't know. Why are you a dark side boy then? Oh, because I love the Sith. I love the ideology and suffering of the Sith because they strive so hard to achieve power, and in my opinion, essential. What's the word? Like everlasting life, right? The afterlife, and they can't get these things. Like it is like a curse for them. No matter how much power they have, even Darth Sidious, who is one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful, dark side user of all time, even he cannot become immortal, right? Even he does not have everlasting life in the afterlife, and that's why I love the Sith too, because of that. But it's not really the Sith that I love. It's just Darksiders and their struggle. I love characters that are complex. I love characters that suffer. I love characters that go through things. That's why I love Guts. That's why I like Smeagol. That's why I love Anakin Skywalker. I think that these characters are some of the most suffering characters in all of fiction. It's beautiful to see that redemption, atonement, and also the power of people's choices, which I don't think people understand, because ultimately the Sith are evil, and you can have this debate about the Sith species, which is a very interesting part of the Sith history, but the Sith as Force users that are directly the rivals of the Jedi are evil. They are always evil. And even someone like Vectivus, who is thrown around in the Star Wars community and seen as the only good Sith, he has no real story. There is no book about him. He's only mentioned in 2 stories, and that's the Darth Plagueis book, and of course with Lumaya and the New Jedi Order. And he's a bad dude, because the only people talking about him ever are bad people. Darth Plagueis and Lumaya, the Dark Lady. I don't really understand how someone can say that and say, wow, this character is actually good, because this totally bad person who's trying to manipulate this other guy and make him the most evil person in the galaxy, I should trust him. And I think people that fall for that tale are the same people, are just like Darth Caedus. They would fall to that ideology and that deception, just like Anakin has, just like so many other characters has. So I know that we're like talking a lot about the Sith, but one thing I really want to talk about is what Bane says, what Revan says. And Revan is so interesting when you bring all of this in, because when you start reading the actual lore for the books, and I think one of the greatest things in all of Star Wars is the Jedi versus Sith Essential Guide. The Jedi versus Sith Essential Guide is so important, in my opinion, in understanding the Rule of Two, Revan's ideology that gives him the inspiration to make the holocron that Bane finds, and that Bane uses his teachings to basically found the Rule of Two, which influences everything that you see with Darth Sidious, and ultimately makes the Sith conquer the galaxy. And it's in a couple pages here, but once I get to that, we're going to talk about that once I find it in here. But it's so good, and I'll tell you guys, and I'm pretty sure I've taught this lesson so many times over, man. And it's just so crazy how many times, like, no matter what, I just feel like there's a certain section of Star Wars enthusiasts, they just don't accept that, It's really interesting. Hey everybody on TikTok, thank you so much for coming over here. That's why my boy Anakin is the GOAT. Yeah, I love Anakin. I love Vader. I love Kylo Ren. I really like characters that have problems, that have issues, Okay, so I have the Rule of Two. We also have, all right, so here's the first thing. It's so funny, Leon, every time I hear you say, fair enough, fair enough. So here we go. This is really interesting what Revan says to Bane, okay? So I'm going to read this to you guys. All right. So those who accept the power of the dark side must also accept the challenge of holding on to it. By its very nature, the dark side invites rivalry and strife. This is the greatest strength of the Sith. It culls the weak from our order, yet this rivalry can also be our greatest weakness. The strong must be careful, lest they be overwhelmed by ambitions of those beneath them working in concert. Any master who instructs more than one apprentice in the ways of the dark side is a fool. In time, the apprentices will unite their strength and overthrow the master. It is inevitable. That is why each master must have only one student. This is also the reason there can only be one Dark Lord. The Sith must be ruled by a single leader, the very embodiment of strength and power of the dark side. If the leader grows weak, another must rise to seize the mantle. The strong rule, the weak are meant to serve. This is the way it must be. Does that sound like good people? Does that sound like innately good people? No. This is also what he says. Okay? Logan. Logan. Ready? True power can only come to those who embrace the transformation. There can be no compromise. Mercy, compassion, loyalty, all of these things will prevent you from claiming what is rightfully yours. Those who follow the dark side must cast aside those conceits. Those who do not, those who try to walk the path of moderation will fail, dragged down by their own weaknesses. So this person that says the Sith are not evil is lying out of their ass, guys. That's got to be one of the biggest lies ever told. I don't know who started that, but it's just wrong, man. Like, it's just wrong. You know, it's okay to believe what you want, but there's a great difference between what you believe is true and what is fact. You know, and this is coming from Revan himself, guys. The most important character, one of the most important characters in the expanded universe. Now, the other thing, which a lot of people hate, by the way, is what Bane says, and Bane, in my opinion, is also very important to this ideology of the Sith, because whether people like it or not, the rule of two made the Sith more powerful, and at its highest point, made the Sith the most successful they have ever been in the Star Wars continuity. So, here's the other thing. That here's the thing that Bane said, using what Revan said. Okay? The power of the dark side cannot be dispersed among the masses. It must be concentrated in a few who are worthy of the honor. The Sith must be ruled by a single leader, the very embodiment of the strength and power of the dark side. If the leader grows weak, another must rise to seize the mantle, to serve this one true Sith master. There can only be one true apprentice. There should be no more, no less. One to embody the power, one to crave it. That is the rule of two. There's so much more in what Bane says, but that's the whole point, is that he is reiterating what Revan taught him. You know? And all you gotta do is read the goddamn book, guys, and then you understand what is happening with Darth Bane, Revan, and the Sith ideology. So if anyone ever tells you that the Sith are good guys or that they are not evil, they are lying out of their ass and they have no idea what they are talking about. It's not true. If you are a Sith, you are following a religion, and the religion is power, the transformation of power. And just like Revan said, there is no compassion, there is no empathy. You are trying to claim power, and you're making the weak serve you. That's slavery. That's what that is, man. That's what that is. You know. It's crazy. Thank you, Keyshawn. Thank you, Mr. Beefy, coming over here to the stream. That's what it is, man. Straight up. So if anyone tells you anything else about the Sith and them being good guys, it's a crock, man. They just lying to you straight up. Straight up. I hate to say it. Okay, so we have quite a few people here. So you guys want to go over the Twitter stuff about EA and everything else that's going on there. You've got a flash gold. Thank you so much. I have no idea what that means, but thank you so much, TikTok. Okay, so yeah, so let's see. Let's read chat. Yeah, I'm a light side, respectfully. Yeah, I understand, man. Like, I got you. I got you. I like light side too. It's just I would succumb to the dark side. And no matter how hard I try, I just have conflictions. Me as a person, I've always just struggled with stuff. Probably because of my past and what I was, how can I say, exposed to. I think is a better word. So, I always have that weight of the past, which is why I like the red lightsaber so much. But it doesn't mean like I don't know. I guess you could say like it's probably one of the reasons why Anakin is one of my favorite characters, or Kylo is one of my favorite characters, because I love the idea of atonement and people changing, and people struggling to make a better future for themselves that have messed up in their past. I've always enjoyed that, especially characters like Zuko from The Last Airbender, who has a very, very similar story to me. Same thing with Kylo Ren. It's really interesting. So I've always really loved that. But I think the problem too is like what people don't understand about Star Wars is giving into anger, giving into fear, giving into jealousy. That those are attributes essentially that the dark side is going to eat you up and change you. So just getting angry in real life isn't the same as getting angry as a Force sensitive. That anger is a drug. You're going to have problems. You're going to you're gonna hear things. You're gonna eventually turn, and just like George Lucas says, you're gonna up the ante every single time because it is like a drug. And I think that's a big part of the Star Wars and how destiny works in Star Wars and how the scales work in Star Wars that people don't necessarily understand in real life, because they always think the dark side can be conquered or the dark side can be used, and there is no nirvana. There is no any of those things like in real life. So yeah, just always something to think about. David Torres says they talk about the Sith because we them boys. Trent says I've been playing Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga on Switch 2. Oh really? Is that really fun? The last time I was trying to play it, I think it was on the Xbox, and it just came out, and it made me a little motion sickness. It was really weird. It was a little weird. Yeah, but I love Lego Star Wars. I really wanted it to be co-op, especially online. But I haven't. So Logan says you're not really a Sith if you don't do evil things. A dark fallen Jedi is corrupted by darkness and is capable of doing bad things, but haven't. Yes, I agree to that as well, Logan. And that's the cool thing too that I think people don't understand is like, it's not that you can be a Force user and not be a bad guy, or it's not that you can be a Force user and just be a good guy. There are areas that are not Sith and not Jedi, and I think that's what people would like to be, like the Jedi, which are one of the most interesting Force factions in Star Wars, but their ideology is also skewed, because it's made off of Sith teachings, and Luke Skywalker is like, nah, bro, this is not this is not really the way that you guys should be doing things. So yeah, you can't be doing that, I think what's also interesting too is just like Logan points out in the source books, there are tainted Jedi, there are fallen Jedi, there are dark Jedi, and tainted and fallen are really interesting because they're struggling with darkness. They haven't done bad things, but maybe they're depressed, maybe they're sad, maybe they're angry, maybe they just had someone die and they're mourning. And now the Jedi Order is absolutely terrified of what's happening because guess what? Maybe this person is showing signs that they may succumb or fall to the dark side. I've made a couple videos about it, but I think it's really interesting when you start to see like how many different versions of Force users there are and how often Jedi struggle with it. Or you could be like Count Dooku and you can be a member of the Lost and he just disagrees with what the Jedi are doing. He's not necessarily a bad guy yet, but he ends up leaving because he just does not agree with what the Jedi are doing. There's just so much in Star Wars, and people think it's always black and white, or they completely confuse themselves with like what the Sith are. And the Sith are evil, guys. I'm just sorry. Like they're just evil, you know. But yeah, Logan. So yeah, Leon. I don't know if that really helps you out a lot, but I'm usually a dark side boy because I just love characters that struggle. That's really it. So, and I struggle myself too. So I like to see characters that are not perfect in their choices, that don't have wisdom, or at the very least have gotten wisdom and experience through their failures and suffering in life. That's why I usually like Sith boys, dark side boys. Davis says, oh, thank you, Davis, for coming in here. Everybody welcome Davis with a ready up. The dark side still has 90s scenarios where nothing is soft and words don't offend nobody. I disagree. I think the Sith are easily offended. I think the Sith are a bunch of bitches. I think that if anybody is not soft, it is the Jedi, because the Jedi do not succumb to the anger. They do not throw hands immediately. The Sith are extremely emotional. They're very quick to be offended, very quick to want to deceive someone. I think that's the entire thing about being a Sith, is that you're so, honestly, if you really think about it, that you're so, what is the word? Like you're so sensitive that you're not strong enough, that you're not powerful enough, that you always have to achieve power because that guy is bigger than you or that guy is stronger than you. And then if you can't be better than him, you have to kill him. And that's what the Sith ideology is. So I don't know. I don't necessarily agree with that. Skywalker Academy says, Sith aren't evil. Me picturing all the dark stuff they do with the dark side, including Sith alchemy. Yeah, Sith alchemy is also really interesting because you see the Sith and what they have done, especially when they've just found the dark side and they start experimenting on things and changing things. People believe that how often they change stuff and augmented these beings. They call them abominations. And it was almost as if, I think Yoda called it, like it was a disrespect to life itself, or in the natural flow of life. And he even believed that their creations needed to be put out of their misery, which is crazy, dude. Like, it's so insane that Yoda would literally see one of those things and he's just like, oh my god, we have to kill it. Yeah, this is a disgrace to life. This thing should not exist. That's actually kind of wild, you know? Yo, Soda Fam, thank you so much for coming over here. Everybody welcome Soda Fam with a ready up. Logan says, good. Gray Jedi versus bad Gray Jedi, each on opposite sides of the fulcrum for the dark side. Never. Oh my gosh, the Gray Jedi, man. I think that's so funny. Leon says, do you guys think that Palpatine also manipulated Luke's mind so that he could cause Ben Solo to fully turn to the dark side? So, in my opinion, I think one of the coolest concepts that never really made it to the movie, that I absolutely don't like, is Luke is on ahch-to and there's a dark-sided specter behind him. I had hoped something like that would be the thing, like, wow, okay, Snoke is so strong because he was trained by Sidious, that maybe at one time Sidious and Snoke had to unite to manipulate Luke Skywalker, you know, and give him the uncertainty to train his family that made Ben Solo eventually, you know, fall to the dark side. But I also think that even though I don't like Rise of Skywalker either, I think they do a really good job of showing you that Palpatine had always been inside of Ben's head. And they do that in the first, 5 seconds of the movies where he's on Exegol and he's like, I've been every voice inside of your head. And then, it sounds like Darth Vader, it sounds like Snoke, and I thought that was, okay, cool, I can understand that. That's Darth Sidious. Ben Solo has not met anybody on that level, and no wonder why he's able to be manipulated by someone that's a literal Sith dog, So I've always liked that. I just never appreciated the execution and the lack of attention that they gave to previous characters of Star Wars, like Luke, Skywalker Academy says, I think that's what happened, but Palpatine has been manipulating Ben since he was born. Yes, that's what I agree. I'm that's what I got from the movie, that happened. And even though I've only seen that movie like 2 or 3 times, because not really into the idea of rewatching it. I felt like that was one of the main things that they gave in that movie, and I couldn't really criticize, and I thought they did well. All right, so let's talk about the main juice of the of the stream here, guys. And thank you so much, Lucky Breaks, for coming over to the Twitch stream or the TikTok stream. So we have this. Let's talk about the biggest issue, right? The biggest elephant in the room. EA have announced they will be acquired by Saudi Arabia. Silver Lake and Infinity Partners for $55 billion and EA will no longer be a public company. Upon completion of the deal, EA will remain out of Redwood City within Andrew Wilson as CEO. So, EA being acquired by Saudi Arabia is terrifying. It is not good for any fan of Star Wars. And if you have any hope of Battlefront 3 happening, those dreams are probably gone. If you have any hope of Jedi Fallen Order 3 maybe not being, I don't know, ruined by this or touched by this or affected by this, I think that is not the correct way to look at these things. Zero Company, I'm terrified for because it's literally in the middle of its production and it's about to release next year. I'm also terrified for funding for that game. Because the first thing that I think is going to happen is you're going to see some massive layoffs. Or at the very least, reformation. I'm terrified of this. EA goes through these things every single year, and this is probably the biggest reformation that they're ever going to have in their new era. So I just see a lot of moving parts, a lot of changing. I don't know if they're going to move offices like they have, because they have a bunch in Florida. I don't know what's going to happen with FIFA and Madden and all of these other games. But specifically for Star Wars, I think that there will never be a Star Wars game after maybe Zero Company. And if Jedi 3 has to move or Respawn becomes its own thing, I don't know, man. I do not think that anything Star Wars is ever going to happen with EA ever again. And I'm terrified of the future for any games that have the Jedi label, the Zero Company label, or Battlefront, man. I don't think it's happening, guys. You know? I'm just not sure. But EA doesn't have exclusive rights to Star Wars, right? No, they do not have exclusive rights to Star Wars, and we saw that with the Ubisoft game. My issue is with games that already exist, you know, that have fallen under the EA banner, like Jedi. Jedi Fallen Order is one of the main games right now. Battlefront, that's EA, you know. What's the other game that people play all the time? Galaxy of Heroes. That game probably won't go anywhere. That is just a moneymaker, I feel like, for EA, and they're probably not going to touch that. As I think it's one of the worst freaking... I think it's one of the most predatory video games ever created. It's just all buy. Like, everything that you're doing is buying. You can't even level up the characters. Star Wars The Old Republic, I think, the MMO, I think no longer is a part of EA, but it's weird because it was also a BioWare IP, but I think that game is done after this year. I don't think that game is going to be really any relevant that it already is, and it's not relevant anymore. I think Star Wars games for EA are done, guys. I don't know what's going to happen with Battlefront. I think Battlefront is gone. Yeah, man. I just don't think any of those Star Wars games are going to have a good ending. You know? I'm terrified for Jedi 3 right now. I'm also terrified for Zero Company. You know, we've only seen, what, maybe like a trailer, and then we've seen the characters and a little bit of the story. This game is supposed to be releasing next year, early, so I don't know, man. This couldn't have come at such a worse time, I feel like, guys. Yeah, Soda Fam says we ain't getting any type of Star Wars games anymore. We'll be getting Star Wars games. It's just, I'm not sure the type of quality these games are going to get in. Here's the thing, right, is about video games. It's like a movie, okay? A movie or a TV show, you can produce, you can create, you can make. right? The problem is that no matter what state the movie is in, no matter what state the show is in, you can watch the show and it can be garbage. You can go to the movies and you can pay to go to see the movie and it can be terrible. The problem with a bad game is that you're spending millions and millions and millions of dollars on the game and you can't even ship the game if it's not working. I mean, yeah, sure you can. We've seen that before, but like if it's a AAA Star Wars game and this game literally does not run, there's no way that this game can be completed and can be shipped, you know? And that's the problem right now, because I think video games are harder to make than movies, much harder. And that's just why I just feel like gaming is in just this really weird spot where they have one or two games come out, and then it's bad for the industry because all the other studios are complaining that they can't make a good game, you know? Like Baldur's Gate, when Baldur's Gate came out, everybody was like, don't expect video games to be this good. You got Battlefield 6, you know, coming out, and I played the beta, and that's the first one I've played since Battlefield 2, and it feels amazing. It feels like Battlefield, you know? But I don't know how long that's going to last, because guess what? That's EA as well, you know? So, I don't know, guys. Like, gaming, in my opinion, is worse than the movie industry right now. It's just really bad. Is that a stormtrooper? Yes, it's a stormtrooper. It actually moves as well. He can move around and do stuff. He came with a candy cane and a Halloween candy bucket. And I wanted to get him a blaster, but he moves around and does stuff. I usually put him on during the holidays, and we're almost there. Thank you so much for joining the stream over here on TikTok. SodaFam says, I would love if Disney remade LucasArts and pulled games from EA library. Yeah, you know, I just don't know, man. Like, there was one person that I was talking to on Threads, and they were like, whatchamacallit? They said to me, like, it doesn't make any sense why you're worried about this. Like, they want to make money. Why don't they just make all the video games? That's not how it works. If that was the way it works, EA would have been doing that day one. Disney would have been doing that day one. We would have had a video game every freaking quarter. That's not how it works. You have to dish out so much money for video games these days. And there isn't a lot of talented studios around, man. Even the studios that are around take forever to make a game. And most of the time, these games get canceled. Why? Because people get laid off. I think it's harder to make than movies, man. Much harder. It's crazy hard. Anthony says, hope you keep up with the as a true, even though there's bad news, he's got ears on things. It's a Home Depot TK. Oh yeah, it's the Home Depot Stormtrooper, yes. Logan has a hot take and says, I'd rather have a new shooter IP than another Battlefront. I don't see how they can keep making the same movie locations but different between Battlefront games. I don't think that's a bad take. I think the problem is with the idea of moving on from Battlefront is that the community is massive. I think the next step for Battlefront would be to make expanded universe battles. You know, like, you know, the mod. Anybody and their mother that's a Star Wars fan that understands like how awesome Star Wars is, remembers movie battles. You've probably played it a lot. You know, you've probably played it a bunch of times. It's literally one of the only Star Wars games that was out there for a while. It's actually kind of crazy how fun that game is, and it's modded like half the time. It's such a good game. And Movie Battles does a great job with like bringing assets from other video games. You know, it has the PvP aspect. You could be a Force user, you could be a bounty hunter, you could be just a smuggler guy running around with so many different guns and abilities. I felt like Jedi Fallen Order could do that if it had a dedicated multiplayer game. But the problem with leaving Battlefront is just it's such a huge IP that people love. Like, it's a casual magnet for Star Wars fans. Anybody's playing that. Like, you have basketball players playing that. You know, you have John Boyega being a part of the campaign for the second game. Like, dude, like, it's so important. I feel like it's a casual Fortnite, and that's something that people don't have, you know? It's a power that's very hard for Star Wars to fix. Now, what I would love if you really want a new shooter, make Republic Commando 2 and stylize Republic Commando as a shooter, a shooter-based sandbox arena like Halo. Now I think you have something that's really fun. You have the casual aspect. You can bring in skins from the universe, so you can have, you know, every single era of troopers, you know, whether it's Rebel, whether it's Empire, whether it's Old Republic, New Republic, you know, whatever you want. You can even bring in characters like, you know, Death Troopers or Terror Troopers, you know. I think there's a bunch of stuff that you could do and have a really good time with something like Republic Commando, and take Star Wars in a new way. Give that with customization and go crazy. You know, you can have Mandalorian units. I think that you can have Nova squads. Like, there's so many things that you can do with something like that you couldn't do in Battlefront. I think that's probably the way to go if you want a Star Wars IP shooter. Who are you going to find to make that game? I don't know. You know, if it's 2011, I say Bungie. But it's not 2011 anymore, and Bungie's practically dead, you know. I don't know. It's very difficult for me to think about what studio can make a good Star Wars game these days, you know. NHL ain't gonna be anything oh, I'm sorry. So you found out this, by the way. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. All right. I see what you're saying. All right. Skywalker Academy. Yeah, I can see that being a consistent strategy of his, using paranoia to turn Skywalker to the dark side. Yes, I think that's what Sidious has always done. Any other questions? Logan says, I'd like to see a gritty Star Wars shooter like Hansel's Star Wars First Assault. Yeah, I heard about that. I also would love the, you know, Bounty Hunter 1313. You know, that was a game that we're never gonna get back. I also just want a Mandalorian open world game stuck in the Mandoverse. Like, I really want a game like that, man. I don't know. See, that's the other thing too. Is like, I'm not sure what's happening with Star Wars video games. Like people like to criticize a lot of the movie stuff, and that's cool. You know, everybody likes to hate on things. You know, whatever. But I think the real attention should be at Star Wars video games, man. Like, you have a huge IP that has the potential to make almost as much as Pokemon, right? In terms of, like, streamlining money. Of just so lucrative that it's just oozing out cash. Because you can make a Star Wars anything, any genre, right? I don't understand why there isn't so many different versions of Star Wars games. And the Mandoverse, especially with like Mando and Grogu coming out, like, why don't you have Mandalorian MMO / open world genre game to explore all this fun stuff with your own Mandalorian character, you know, with your own story? I don't know, man. It seems so easy. It's the same thing with like when they had shipped the High Republic. Like, I would have been day one, like, if we're doing all this media for books and comics, we need a video game. That's a different medium. We're going to get people excited. Yeah, sure, maybe they don't like to read, maybe they don't know how to read, but everybody can click sticks, you know, and press buttons and play video games. So why don't we have some surface level video game for these people to play? You know, obviously I know a lot of people aren't hype about those things, but that's how you get people in the Old Republic. That's how you get people in the original trilogy, you know, or the prequel trilogy. I think there's so many things that you can do, but I think it's more a point of money, and money that they don't have, money that they don't know how to use, and money that they're terrified to spend because they're afraid for things to get canceled. I don't know, guys. What do you think? Skywalker Academy says, yeah, a High Republic game could have gotten more people invested into that area. It feels like a missed opportunity. Yeah, that's one of the biggest problems is timing, you know. Now, of course, comics and stories are have a much faster production line than video games. You know, video games, you're waiting and waiting. You know, it's kind of crazy how long you have to wait for Star Wars video games, or just video games in general. You know, you hear all the time this game has been developed for like 6 years. You know, 7 years, 8 years. You know, a game like Anthem. And then it comes out and it's broken, and then you start to hear how terrible everything was, and then, you know, the game doesn't exist anymore. Although on TikTok says, yes, definitely need a Mandalorian in some games, like you said. Yeah, 100%. And thank you for being over here on the stream on TikTok, fam. Thank you. We're also on YouTube Live. But yeah, it just to me it doesn't make sense. You know, I know Lucasfilm is owned by Disney, but I think it's Marvel. I think it's Disney games in general. Like, why isn't there a Marvel MMO? You know, like, you just had Infinity War, you know, several years back. You could make an MMO, and I'm not even a big Marvel guy, right? You could make an MMO based off of, like, oh my God, everybody was just snapped. Here you go. Here's the new Avenger Titans, whatever. You know, obviously you have the new Avengers, you know, that the movie came out, but you have a game, just like how DC Universe was really cool, and they did that too back in the day, which was a really fun MMO. I loved that MMO. But even for someone that's not a Marvel fan like me, you know, I'm playing Marvel Rivals every other week as a casual fan, and I enjoy that because it gives me something to be a part of the universe in. You know, I think Star Wars can do that too. It's just Star Wars isn't, I don't know. But I think the same flaws with Star Wars video games happen with Marvel video games. And I think it's a pattern. Maybe it's control, maybe it's money, maybe it's studios. But I think there definitely should be a dedicated studio for Star Wars to be making Star Wars video games. That should be your job. You're here to make Star Wars video games. We don't need to go out and hire buddy over here or buddy over there or a studio here. We're bringing these people in that are getting laid off, and you're contributing to this project that's happening for Mandalorian and Grogu movie. You're contributing to this fighter game. You're contributing to this Republic Commando 2. You know, you're contributing to the brand new Knights of the Old Republic 3. You're contributing to a brand new IP set in Rey's Jedi Order that's going to launch simultaneously with other forms of media like books and comics alongside the new movie. I don't know, bro. Logan says Star Wars Total War is coming. New Empire at War. I hope so. But I don't know if that's true. I only heard that the Zero Company game was the tactical game. I didn't hear anything about a new Total War. I did hear Civilization though. I did hear a rumor about Star Wars Civilization. That was last year. That would be really cool. Skywalker Academy says, what's funny is DC has an MMO 13 years old and still going strong. That's DC Universe. That's the one I was talking about. That initially launched on the PlayStation 3, and I think it was just PlayStation 3. That was really fun. It was a free-to-play MMO. Really cool. You got to go around, and I remember playing that game, and I remember the villains outnumbering the heroes. I think the ratio was like 12-1 or something. It was worse than Star Wars The Old Republic, where like everybody was playing as Sith, and I think the population Sith versus the Jedi was like, I think it was like 6-1, but the DC Universe Online, yeah, ratio was insane. Like everybody was a villain. You were a hero, and I remember going out there and I was getting jumped. Like you had safe areas inside DC Universe that were being protected by NPCs that were like level 100, and they were getting jumped. And you were going outside, and you would walk out the door, and the villains would be like 5 feet in front of you, and it would just be all other players that were villains, and they would be beating the shit out of everybody. My PlayStation 3 was crashing because there were so many fights and people getting jumped. You would walk 5 meters past the safe zone, and it was just superpowers and getting levitated. You were getting jumped by so many stuff. I remember getting jumped by like 3 fast speeders, and it was just a wall of punches, and I was just getting jumped in Gotham, mind you, and it was always dark in Gotham, man. That shit was crazy, dude. That was insane. That's what I want for Star Wars. Like, I want something that's like crazy. Like, I'm going to like the lower levels of Coruscant, and I'm going to this cantina. There's some bad dudes here, you know. That'd be really cool, you know. Even if it's like something like The Division, but I would like something a little bit more fun and in depth. Like, I don't know, man. There's a lot of video games out there that I think are pretty interesting. But who knows, man. Logan says, the MMO a profitable game model, or did that era come to an end? I think MMOs are probably some of the hardest games to create, because they are also in development for several years. You have the subscription base, which is really interesting. I guess you could do something like Star Citizen, but Star Citizen is a really, really interesting game that a lot of people criticize because they've gotten so much money over time, and people just believe that Star Citizen is a scam. You know, I think the game is fun, but there's times where nothing comes out for the players to have, and they're just rolling around and doing nothing. You know, so I don't know. I mean, there really isn't MMOs that come out every once in a while. Diablo had come out like, what, 2 years ago already? Or last year? And that game isn't necessarily like an MMO as other MMOs, you know, like World of Warcraft or something. But the game is still fun, and you can play it with people, but you need a lot of, I mean, you need money. You need devs. I don't know, man. It's just, that's the other thing too, is like, who are you hiring that's talented enough to make these games? Because it is also an era of, it's a genre that in an era that doesn't really exist anymore, you know? So much money, effort, time to go into story, but too risky whether it'll go big or not. Exactly, and I think that's why they don't like doing it. Hey, it's Soka the Padawan from back in that. Oh my gosh, yo, fam, it's so good to see you. Thank you so much for coming back. So good to see you. Welcome. We also have the YouTube Live as well. So good to see you, fam. Thank you so much. Yo, can we get a ready up in the chat? Let's go. Skywalker Academy says, I still play DC Universe Online. It's fun. Yep, I remember seeing all those villains. It was fun and annoying. Yeah, it was crazy. It was terrifying, man. I think I still have like screenshots of my character. It was really fun. I always did Gotham. I love Batman. Batman is my boy. David Torres says, when is the Maul Shadow Lord supposed to come out? Next year. Next year is going to be pretty packed with Star Wars stuff. We have Ahsoka coming out. Mando and Grogu, and then Maul Shadow Lord. So a lot of really cool stuff. That's pretty big. That's a pretty good amount of stuff for Star Wars these days, man. I'm pretty excited for next year. I like that. I like when we have like something live action to look forward to, you know, animation and a movie. That's pretty awesome, man. That hasn't happened in a long time. A little excited for the Maul series. That's pretty good, yeah. I mean, I think everybody's going to love the Maul series because it's going to be bad guys fighting and killing bad guys. You know, that's what everybody's going to love. And, you know, Talon might be in there. Who knows how far the trajectory of those stories are going to go. And Maul is so fleshed out. And if it is going to be using scraps of George Lucas's ideas for his sequel trilogy, then I think that's a win-win scenario for the fans and Lucasfilm. Problem is, it's only animation, you know? But even still, I think that they do really good with animation. So I hope that we'll be able to see some quality Lucasfilm content, man, like Clone Wars Season 7. I liked Bad Batch. I like the Tales story. I do think at times it's a little soft, but I think it's good, man. I think it's good stuff. David Torres says, that's a good year for Star Wars. Yes, it is. Lord Dagovere, do you think Maul fights Vader? I think that Maul fights Vader, and he's going to get his ass kicked, and he's going to be terrified of Vader. Because in Star Wars Rebels, where he's sitting there on Malachor, which I think he's pretty much evaded and ran and lost contact with Talon, or Talon. Yeah, Talon. I think that started because he fought Vader, and when he fought Vader, he realized how much stronger Darth Vader was. And he has this line in Star Wars Rebels. He was like, they are going to call the one that they call Vader, and I can't defeat him alone. So that makes me believe that he's encountered Vader, and maybe Vader is the reason why Maul is hiding on Malachor. That's what I believe. Tails had a couple bangers, but yeah, some soft spots. Yeah, it had some soft spots. I do think that it's a little better than what people will admit, but I think also that some people are just kind of, they really want like Andor quality level Star Wars, and I can't blame them. When you see what you're missing out on and you see how good it can be, it's very hard to go back. That's just the way it is, man. People just want good all the time. That's kind of crazy, It is what it is, man. Hello there. So good to see everybody. Welcome. Hello there with already up in the chat. Hello there says, how you doing, fam? So good to see you, man. Yeah, we're just talking about Star Wars, talking about Maul, Shadow Lord. We were talking about the EA acquisition in Star Wars and how some of those games might have no future whatsoever. And that's what it is, man. That's... It's kind of just terrible for Star Wars games right now. Like, I legitimately don't have anything positive to say about Star Wars games, man. It's really sad, honestly. David Torres says, I thought the same thing. Vader rolled up Maul and was laying low and regrouping. Yeah, because, like, when you think about it, like, don't get me wrong. Maul's a strong character, but I think what people don't acknowledge about Maul is that he's lost to everybody. He only has one win, and that's against Qui-Gon Jinn. Everybody else, he's kind of gotten clapped. He's lost to Ahsoka, and Ahsoka wasn't even in her prime. He's lost to some of the Inquisitors. He's lost to Kenobi multiple times. Like, Kenobi is just handing him L's over and over, bro. And yeah, it's just Maul is not going to be able to do anything against Vader, even Prime Maul. Like, he's just not going to be able to do stuff. So if I was Maul, I would be hiding on Malachor as well. Alvo says, like to see some of the bounty hunters like Bosk and Dengar. It is absolutely insane to me that Bosk has not been brought in any way, shape, or form. We have IG-11, we have Sukkas, in there as well. Like, we have my gosh, we have everybody but them, and it's so frustrating because I think they're some of the coolest and characters that stand out in Empire Strikes Back. We had Book of Boba Fett, huge missed opportunity, but I think Book of Boba Fett was the show of huge missed opportunities. But Bosk and Dengar, I think, are really important to a lot of the bounty hunting Star Wars stories, especially when you get into the comics. Like Twin Engines is a very good Star Wars story. If you guys have never read that, it is amazing. And like, Dengar is like one of Boba's only, I don't want to say friends, but he's kind of a homie, or at the very least, someone that Boba tolerates, and that is a dynamic that I love. And Clone Wars, you also have Bosk. Bosk is defending Boba a lot. The new canon, they don't really like show that a lot. It's kind of like Bosk like hates Boba now, and Boba hates Bosk, which I don't really like. I get it that they're businessmen and they're competitors for each other, but I would like to see that, hey, you looked out for me when no one else would, I don't know, but that's just me. That could be fan service talking, Hello there says Bosk and Boba needed to team up in the shadow in the show, but of course they didn't. Bosk and Boba, yeah, I agree. I still think that is a possibility. I just think also Bosk is cool as hell, man. Dengar as well. Like, he has his straps and everything, and then Bosk, if you made a model, like, you have Zeb, right? You have Zeb, and Zeb is obviously going to be in Ahsoka. He's obviously going to be in Mando and Grogu. If you made a model like Bosk, come on, guys. He'll literally be one of the coolest freaking characters, you know? And he already is. Like genuinely, he already is. It's just so crazy to me they haven't taken that risk yet to bring in this really cool Trandoshan guy, you know, Boba, Dengar. Like, I just don't understand, man. I think that he hits all the notes that every hardcore Star Wars fan wants. Like a series of them in Book of Boba Fett, but needed. Yeah, I mean, it could even be like Book of the Bounty Hunters or something, you know? Just like they wanted to do Rangers of the Republic, you know? And they could do that, and they could do that. I still think that they can, but who knows, man? I think that there's a lot of opportunity for things, even though, like, people hate stuff, but I don't know, man. We'll see what happens with Mando and Grogu and Starfighter and what catches fire and what doesn't, but I think the Mandoverse is solid, and there's a lot of stories that you can really go crazy with, man. It really is just about what Lucasfilm even wants to do. That's really it, man. SodaFam says, Bosk is my favorite Kenner action figure I had as a kid. I think he's cool. I don't know how you look at Bosk and say, oh yeah, no, I'm not interested. Just he's really cool. It's just like when I look at the old Shizor Kenner stuff as well, where Shizor looks really cool. I got your boy up there, Dash Rendar, you know, and he's up there too. It's just like all these characters are kind of sitting there, and you know what's gonna happen with them. Yes. Hello there says the Wookiee Hunter himself, my second favorite bounty hunter. Yes, I think that's also interesting too, because Chewbacca is a really big character, and then you could kind of start bringing in, you know, stories about that, you know, with how intriguing it is that this race is literally hunting Chewbaccas. The movie only fan base does not know that. That is crazy, you know? I don't know, man. Logan says Dengar's contact name for Boba was Sarlacc Bait in Legends. Yeah, it's so cool, man. I just love their I love their relationship, especially in the Twin Engine comics, man. We need Boy Black Chrysanthemum. Yes, Chrysanthemum is also cool too, you know, and that's a character, you know, Dr. Aphra talks to all the time. Like, I love that stuff. The new canon has nice, shiny attributes and things. It's just, I don't know, when Lucasfilm and Storyboard decide to turn them on, but at the same time, too, I feel like Storyboard only really gets control over, like, the Lego stories, which are really good, by the way. Has anybody seen the Pieces of the Past? The Rebuilding the Galaxy, man? That show was so good. That was a great series. They had some really interesting ideas in there. It was really fun. I really enjoyed it. Albo says it would be cool if they went back to the Old Republic and delve into the Mandalorian Wars and Revan. Yes, of course. I mean, Old Republic is amazing. You know, I'm someone that loves both New Canon and Old Republic, and there are people out there that genuinely do not like the Old Republic, but I feel like Old Republic is one of the strongest eras of Star Wars, and I think that if you started making stories in that era, I don't know how people would fight against it if it was executed on the level of Andor. Of course, yes, every show would be liked as Andor, but it's just got so many good stories, man. It's got so many compelling factions. I don't know, man. You really want to see that stuff? I think that you can do it, you know. Huge Lego fan, can't lie though. New sets are sweet. I like a lot of them. I just think that they're a little overpriced. That's all. Skywalker Academy says, love that Lego series. Lego Cal stole the show. Yeah, Revan was in there. They had Revan for like a good 10 minutes. I'm surprised they didn't use him more. I was a little bummed out about that. It's a pretty damn good show, man. They had Kyle Katarn in there as well. I don't know if anybody had seen that. Hello there says, even the prices are crazy. Logan says, I like the Old Republic. Yeah, I love the Old Republic, man. I love Tales of the Jedi, man. I just like a lot, dude. You know? Yeah, it's frustrating. And you guys know me, too. I'm not someone that likes to continuously, like, attack these things. I think I'm only frustrated because the potential is always there with Star Wars, you know? And when you see stuff not being used or stuff executed not to the level that you want, of course. But yeah, but I think that's gonna do it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'm gonna close out the TikTok. Thank you guys on TikTok. I will see you next time. We have TikToks every single Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and we always have the lives today at 8 p.m. So please come back and join the Discord if you haven't already with the link inside the bio. I'll see you guys on TikTok. Deuces. Thank you very much. I'll see you around. And fams, thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. Dude, TikTok is like really crazy. I hate how I have to shut that off, and I wish I could just stream on the computer. But thank you guys. We are so close to 10,000. So if you guys ever see those shorts, please share it with your friends. Let your mama know, your cat, your dog. Tell anybody on the HoloNet, please. Seriously. And of course, join the Discord. Have some fun. It's always really good to see you guys in there talking about stuff. We got a lot of good energy. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Starlight Podcast YouTube channel. It's really fun. We got a lot of cool people on there, man. Would really love to see you guys go in there and comment on stuff. But that's about it, man. We're getting really close to 10K here. Spooky time is happening with the playlist, guys. And it's always good to see you guys. So thank you so much for everything. And as always, man, coming into the Dark Temple, visited by Mara Jade, Luke Skywalker, and Kyle Katarn, and so many other Force sensitive like yourself, I'm Lord Dagovere, and I'll see you around. Deuces.